The air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and dust, a familiar perfume in the makeshift clinic. I was updating medical charts. Just another Tuesday, another line of names and ailments. The pen scratched against the paper, a tiny, mundane sound in a world that was anything but. Outside, the low hum of a generator was the only other sound, a fragile heartbeat against the silence of the afternoon. I remember tracing the letters of a child's name, a little boy with a fever who'd been in just an hour before. His mother had been so worried, her eyes pleading for an answer I couldn't fully give. All I could offer was medicine and a reassuring smile. It was in that quiet moment, lost in the routine of my work, that the world decided to tear itself apart. There was no warning, no distant whistle, no crescendo of approaching danger, just a sudden, violent roar that ripped through the air. The ground bucked beneath my feet like a startled animal. The pen flew from my hand as the window on the far wall imploded, showering the room in a cascade of glittering, deadly confetti. The world dissolved into a cacophony of shattering glass, splintering wood, and the deep, gut-wrenching boom of the explosion. I was thrown sideways, my head striking the wall with a dull thud. For a moment, there was only a high-pitched ringing in my ears, a single piercing note that drowned out everything else. Dust and smoke filled my lungs, a gritty, choking cloud that made it impossible to see, impossible to breathe. The familiar clinic had vanished, replaced by a scene of utter chaos. My training kicked in before my mind could catch up. The ringing in my ears faded, replaced by the terrifying sounds of the aftermath. Moans, cries for help. The panicked shouts of my colleagues. I pushed myself up, my body screaming in protest. A sharp pain shot through my arm, but there was no time for that. Through the swirling dust, I could see shapes, figures moving in the haze, some stumbling, some crawling. The wall where I'd been standing just seconds before was gone, a gaping hole looking out into a world turned upside down. The generator had fallen silent. The only light came from the fires that had started to lick at the edges of the wreckage. My chart, the one with the little boy's name, was gone, swallowed by the debris. In that moment, the mission became brutally simple: survive and save. I ripped a piece of my shirt to staunch the bleeding on my own arm and then crawled toward the first cry I could reach. It was one of our nurses, her leg trapped beneath a collapsed ceiling beam. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock and pain. We worked together, me and 2 other volunteers who had scrambled from the back rooms. Our hands raw, our muscles straining, until we freed her. The next few hours were a blur of adrenaline and instinct. We were no longer just updating charts. We were the first responders, the surgeons, the search and rescue team, all rolled into one. We set up a triage area in what was left of the courtyard, using torn sheets for bandages and our bare hands to clear rubble. Every person we pulled from the wreckage was a victory against the senseless violence that had descended upon us. There was no time for fear, no time for anger. There was only the immediate, desperate need to preserve life. We worked through the night, our faces caked with grime, our bodies aching, fueled by a shared determination that refused to be extinguished. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, it cast a light on the true extent of the devastation. But it also illuminated the faces of the survivors, the resilient, unbreakable spirit of a community that had been shattered but not broken. Looking back, I don't remember the sound of the mortar as much as I remember the silence that followed and the wave of humanity that rose to fill it. That day, in the ruins of our clinic, I learned that even in the darkest of times, the most powerful force is not destruction, but our instinct to heal. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe for more stories of resilience and hope.